Recently, I had the genius idea to try metal casting an egg. The only problem is that if I just took a normal egg and poured metal on it, the yolk would probably evaporate and completely ruin the casting. So my plan was to put a little hole in the top of the egg and get all of the egg yolk out. And now this metal casting should actually have a hope of working. So here's my plan. I'm basically going to take this egg, bury it in sand in this little steel container, and then attach some foam to the top, pour the metal into there, and that should hopefully give us a pretty good metal casting. So let's try to attach the foam. Okay, so now I basically stuck the styrofoam into the hole of the egg, and as you can see, this looks incredibly professional, just kind of dangling out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pour some place sand right in the metal container that we have here. I'm gonna try not to spill too much, and we're gonna fill it about 1/4 of the way with sand. Okay, now that we have that, we're gonna give it a little jiggle. So now we're gonna stick the egg right here in the center with the styrofoam facing up, and now all that we have to do is cover it on all sides evenly. So let's hope I don't screw this up, because if I do, it's not gonna look very good. It's just gonna look like a blob of metal, which I doubt it's not gonna look like even if I do it right, because the eggs doesn't have that much detail, so it's probably just gonna be a slightly oblong like sphere, and I'm gonna probably have to polish it up with a Dremel. Wow, this sand has a lot of dust coming out. Okay, there we go. So now, all that we have sticking out is the foam riser. So now technically if we pour metal right here, we can make a little cavity to pour it in. It should go in, and it should fill the egg pretty well. I have no idea if this is gonna work because this is my first try, but let's get the furnace started up. Okay, so here we have the Jank Foundry. So basically it's just a metal bucket with some plaster of Paris insulation and a propane jet torch that comes on the side. So now all we technically have to do is start up the propane, and with any luck, we'll get a nice flame going without burning anything off my hands. There we go. Now let's turn up the PSI. Let's turn it up to about 15, and now let's put it into full jet mode by allowing more air into the stream. There we go, perfect. Now we can put the crucible in. No idea if you can hear me. And let's put on the lid. So now we're gonna put some metal in there and let it heat up, and then we're just gonna pour it in and see if we got anything that looks good. Okay, let's see what the inside of the furnace looks like. Wow, as you can see, metal magically appeared. Well, I actually added this in between the cuts, but so this is basically just an aluminum ingot. Aluminum is a metal that's fairly light but also fairly weak. So as you can see, it hasn't quite melted yet, but there is actually, I don't know if you can see in the crucible, there is a bit of molten aluminum. Let me show you. Right there on the bottom, there's some liquid, and that is molten metal. So after just 15 minutes of being in this foundry, we have already melted a bit of metal. There we go. And now let's put on the lid so that my neighbors don't hate me. And now let's give it about 10 to 15 more minutes, and it should be completely liquefied. Well, that's melting. Let me show you all of the metal that I currently have, just from kind of, scavenging around what I have. Firstly, this is one of the first castings I made with Lost PLA. This is Probius. So basically I 3D printed a shell, and then I poured metal into it after I buried it in sand, similar to what we're doing with the egg. And probably the most abundant metal thing that I have is these aluminum muffins. So I have a whole bunch of them just laying around. These are aluminum, the same metal that I'm currently melting. And if you thought that was it, I also have some more here. I also have some used risers. And that's not it. We also have some more. Now, I also have a mini Probius. This was the first test I did. Some more empty risers. And I also have a bunker. So this is actually the first test I think I ever did with Lost PLA sand casting. It didn't turn out too great, but it's kind of cool. Now, I've been recently experimenting with making alloys. So this is a bronze aluminum alloy right here. And I actually made a spearhead out of this. So basically what this is about 90% copper, 10% of aluminum, and it creates a super strong metal, way harder than just pure aluminum or pure copper. It's almost as hard as steel, and it also looks really cool. So I also have, as you can see, this is a pretty cool thing. This is me melting copper pipes, and this is the bronze. And then this is the pipes that we're going into making the bronze. Now let's go back to the aluminum in the furnace. Okay, so I think that the metal is melted. If we go and check here. Yes, it's completely liquefied. So what we want to do is clean all of the extra gunk that's floating to the top. And now I think it's time for the pour. Okay, let's hope this works. Because you can't really redo this part unless you want to completely redo the entire process. Okay, let's hope this works. I have very little confidence in this working. Okay, we're seeing air bubbles. That means that it got to the egg. Okay, it seems to be completely filled up. Let's pour all the extra in this muffin tray. Okay, let's run and turn off the furnace right now. Now we wait for it to cool and hope that it worked. Okay, so I've let this cool for about 2 minutes and I am truly not confident, but let's see what we got. So let's hope it's cool, because if not, then I'm literally gonna ruin it. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, that is absolutely incredible. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you can definitely see that geometric pattern. So if I were to guess what happened, there are actually chunks of the eggshell right here, and they are crumbly and completely destroyed. But what I think happened is that when the molten metal came into the eggshells didn't actually melt, they burned a bit. But because of that, they kind of cracked. And those cracks are what we see in this geometric pattern, and I think that looks so cool, and I never would have expected it to turn out like that. So let's clean it up with the Dremel and see just how cool we can get it to really look. After quite a bit of polishing and sanding, we have this. But bam, look at this awesomeness. So as you can see, the geometric shape of the egg really came through, and it feels really cool in the hand. It's fairly lightweight because it is aluminum, but I think it turned out really well for how janky the whole process was. I'm actually impressed that it even turned out the correct shape. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully you enjoyed this, and if you want to see more like this, please subscribe, and oh crap.